Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to this month's Oracle Visual Builder Office Hours. And this month we have a special edition of the Office Hours. This month, instead of product management doing a presentation about what the product does and new features, we actually wanted some of your peers to present to you about the work that they've been doing with Visual Builder. So my name is Shai Schmelzer. I'm from Oracle, from the product management team, but the stars of today are Abhishek and Mohan, who are both leading teams that are building real live applications with Visual Builder, and they'll talk about some of the implementations that they've been doing. During this session, if at any point you have any questions about what you're seeing in the slides, about technical aspects of the implementation or things like that, we have the Q&A part of the Zoom, and you can feel free at any point of time to post your questions over there, and we'll try and get them answered during this session. So Abhishek is from Inspirage and Mohan is from Oracle Consulting. Both of them have been working on big projects with Visual Builder, and we thought it would make a lot of interesting information for you to learn from their experience, see how they implemented stuff, what technologies they're using, their architecture, and maybe take some of the lessons back into your implementation. So without further ado, we'll let Abhishek start. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Abhishek, you can start presenting.
Thanks, Shay. Morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. And Shay, thank you so much for providing this opportunity to share our experiences of using Visual Builder Cloud or overall Oracle Infrastructure Cloud as a service to solve key problem or business requirements in real life for a very fast-paced company. All right, so let me get started. So this solution or this use case that we're going to talk about is for a customer or a client named Carvana. They are a company based in United States. They are the third youngest or the third youngest company to be part of Fortune 500. The first two were, I think, Facebook and Google. So they are in that category. And Carvana as a company, they treat themselves, even though they are in the business of repair manufacturing at a very broad level, buying cars, fixing them, and selling them, with a $45 billion of market cap. But Carvana considers themselves as a technology company who sells cars rather than a manufacturing company who uses technology for their, just for automating tasks. So their technology is in their DNA. In everything that they do, they go for the best of the breed solution. They are not too much into putting everything, having one single solution for the sake of integrations. They want to be the best in every individual piece of that particular technology. And it's really kind of like a good thing that they have decided, and they're still happy with Oracle for their manufacturing cloud side and helping their day-to-day operations. The solution that we have put together is for that. So the customer is Carvana, and any point of time, any questions, feel free to ping me, or Shay, I'm guessing that you will let me know at the end of it. So the industry is automotive or repairs. It's a combination of those two, and end users who are using the solution includes finance, parts procurement, reconditioning. This is the people who are actually, think of them as car technicians or car mechanics. They are the ones who decide what needs to be fixed and actually fix it. And then management and the leadership team within Carvana. And the solution at a very high level, functionally, we call it vehicle management solution. It covers the whole life cycle of the vehicle from ingestion all the way till selling to the customer. And what this covers at a high level is inspecting the vehicle, reconditioning or fixing the vehicle, quality control, repairing it after it has been fixed, and along with that, labor requirements, parts requirements, and logistics of that. So all of this is what the solution covers. And problems that Carvana was trying to solve using the solution is, there's a very massive fragmented market for used car sales. So we wanted something to be to stand out of other competitors in terms of easiness of doing the business, as well as quality cars at a relatively cheaper price. while providing a very superior customer experience, not just buying the car, but during purchase of the car being a big ticket item, people having any questions before, during, and after making the purchase, providing them single window of answering those questions with the accurate and up-to-date data. That was super important for this. And then using this solution plus various other solution that Carvana has built internally, providing a much more better go-to-market strategy where we are pretty sure about what we need to do in terms of forecasting, meeting the demand, and then making sure that the after-sales service is up to the standard and things like that. Going to the next slide. So this solution, in the internal name of this is Carly. And what this does is it supports very, very high volume. We'll talk about those numbers later on, and super mission critical business activities. So this is not something which, if it is down for an hour, nothing will break, because it's a batch program which runs once in a while, creates reports and or planning output. This is day-to-day operations, and hundreds of thousands of transactions are happening per day, and 8,000 people are using it 23 hours a day, 6 days a week. So it's that kind of mission critical business activities. This covers the full life cycle of the vehicle in a workflow, in a logical workflow fashion, where it does allow some flexibilities for exceptional cases, but overall it adheres to the vehicle life cycle so that you cannot do something out of the ordinary or out of sequence, which results in things going misplaced, or that was one of the problems with the previous systems, that people were doing things at any point of time and losing track of what needs to be done, etc., etc. It does have a bunch of real-time microservices which are built by Carvana. So based on the information which is in Visual Builder Cloud, which is talking to database cloud service in OIC, there are various microservices which provides data to various team members, including logistics, customer services, even like leaderships and all that. This solution has very solid validations, and it's 100% integrated with Oracle Financial Cloud and Oracle SaaS Manufacturing. And of course, it's talking to the data warehouse for reporting and analytics, etc., in near real-time basis, which for us is like under 60 seconds. Daily users, we have 8,070 users as of today. This went live in July 2020 with 1 user. So the growth has been exponential, and we're expecting this to be close to 20,000 users by end of next year. We are doing 30,000 vehicles a day, which results in almost 300,000 transactions per day, because each vehicle has at least 10 transactions per day. 10,000 plus parts procurement per day, which is about $25 million of parts per month, and 2,000 plus suppliers, providing them the work to be done, receiving the invoices, doing the matching, and helping the financial team for reconciliation and payment on time. These are like some of the key highlights of the solution. In terms of the solution architecture, so where we have this PaaS or OCI in the middle. So this is what we implemented. Oracle SaaS financial piece was already there. We did implement as part of this project manufacturing cloud and PIM cloud for key master data, so to say. On the right side, these are Carvana owned solution for various things, including their data lake for data warehousing. And what we have done in the middle, which is part of this, is the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and more specifically VBCS. And this is where all 8,000 users are logging in on a day-to-day basis. We have less than 10 people who are logging into SaaS, and all of them those are like support team members. And the reason for doing that in PaaS instead of SaaS is because the screens are very intuitive. They are very simple, very easy. It tells them exactly what needs to be done. And one of the key highlight, or one of the key objective of this solution in terms of VBCS side, was the screens had to be so intuitive that there is almost no training required for end users. Because with 8,000 end users and almost 500 users a month churning, coming in, going out, there was not sufficient time for them to go through rigorous training exercise. So the idea is, when someone logs to in screen, depending on their role, depending on the vehicle status, vehicle workflow, time of the day, their location, and bunch of things which are in Carvana system, Based on that, they will see only what they need to see, and they'll have um, access to only those actions that they can do and they should do. So it's pretty simple and intuitive in that form, in that behalf. Here we have some screenshots of the solution. So you log in, these are all the modules which are available, or you can do a blind search to see what's going on for a specific vehicle. And let me go back. So in the home page, we have all these separate modules, and then each module is a page or application by itself, which can further have various sub applications. So for example, Recon Portal. This is the page where list of all vehicles which can be worked upon depending on the user location and time are available, can be filtered in using multi-select LOVs, toggles. We also have an advanced search options where more options are available. You search for a vehicle, open that, and depending on the vehicle status or vehicle life cycle, one of these pages or applications will be enabled. Depending on the status, any action buttons which are relevant would be enabled, and the full information is visible. This is all responsive. It works in a tablet or high resolution. There are some screens which also works on a mobile device, but because of the amount of data, the use case was to use them on an 8 inches tablet or high resolution, and they are all responsive for that. So this is a couple of various screens of Recon vehicle. One previous one for estimate. This is for doing the work, where the build technician logs in to see what needs to be done, and they can mark something. I've done that. I have not done that. This is the time I took, etc., etc. Any comments and things like that. Then we have the parts portal. This is a little bit different layout, where we have header at the top. You select the header, line details are at the bottom. Depending on the username, location, and few other criteria, action buttons may or may not be available, or only relevant action buttons will be enabled. We also have a locked feature. So if a user one is working on this vehicle, it will be locked for the users, and they can see who has logged it at what point of time. Various filters, toggles, some reports, downloads, etc. Those features are available in this. This is an admin portal for internal support team to do various ad hoc tasks, to maintain some of the master data, to maintain APIs, to talk to various Carvana systems where we can update it but cannot see it, kind of thing. Maintain the users, task lists, and those kind of things. Another application, Parts Investigator. This is a third layout. So the first layout was we had a header on screen 1. Click on a header, see the line in screen 2. The second layout was we had header and lines on in one screen in a split mode. In this third layout, we have the line view because of the type of requirement with this UI, and we have the same owner locking mechanism, various action buttons which are accessible based on the what can and should be able to do with this part line, various search options, various download options, paginations, responsiveness. We also have built mini analytics with real-time data. This is running on top of OLTP or on top of DBCS. So in one of the first slide, we talked about sending this data over to data warehouse or data lake. And we have some simpler versions of the report which users can see in real time within this application without having to go to a separate system. So all that information is available. We have trend chart, line views, stack charts. And this is one of the things which is responsive on a mobile device also. So executives or leads or general managers, they can look at this information at any point of time on their phones. Another UI, mobile responsive. We have tiles on the left side for a vehicle. You select a tile, see the view. You have the option to take some actions, see some details, drill down, sort by various criteria. So these are the some of the key screens. We have many applications, but of course we could not cover everything within 20 minutes. These are some of the highlight key UIs that we have put together. And during the course of this, I did highlight some of the key features on these UIs, and any questions we can cover towards the end. In terms of solution components, we of course used Visual Builder for user interface. All the user interface that we saw in those screenshots, all of that has been built in Visual Builder. We are using database as a cloud as part of Oracle Cloud Interface as our data storage. We are using REST APIs for all the data get and post and everything within VBCS and DBCS, as well as between DBCS and Oracle SaaS, as well as DBCS or VBCS to Carvana solutions. So all of that we are doing with using REST APIs. We are not using Oracle Integration Cloud, so it's everything is REST APIs. Oracle ERP is the financial system. We are also using that for manufacturing and PIM for all the master data hosting. And then we are using Oracle OMC for performance monitoring, and Visual Builder Studio and Oracle Developer Cloud for basically during the development process, check-in, check-out, and things like that. So these are the solution components. Some unique features, the UI experience is like too much of information that we had to display, but had to make it at the same time made it much more easier for the end users who are basically, someone who only knows how to fix a car, may or may not know much about, navigating through the systems, or doesn't have time to go through a 2 days, 3 days, 4 days training exercise. So UI experience was made much simpler for users, much intuitive for users. They look at it, they can easily understand what's going on and take actions. UIs are optimized for mobile, so tablets are being used extensively, and some of the simpler ones are also designed for even handhelds like zebras and anything which is like 6.5 inches and above, sorry, 5.5 inches and above mobile screen. It's tightly integrated with Oracle ERP, so all the GL, are or the accounting information is posted to Oracle ERP, Oracle SaaS, Financials Cloud, where all the GL, etc. is, final general ledger is built over there. In terms of usage, 8,000 daily users, 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's 6 days a week, 6.5 days a week. Sunday is optional, but more or less somewhere, we have as of now 20 locations. At least 5 locations of those are working on Sundays as an overtime. So for us, it's practically 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. The only time window we get is between 2 a.m. California time, when the last last location shift ends, and 6 a.m. East Coast when the first IC shift starts. So that's the 1 hour window when nobody's logged in, or nobody's supposed to be logged in. But other than that, it's been extensively used. This is integrated with Okta and Active Directory via IDCS. So IDCS is the authentication tool for VBCS, and Okta is the authentication tool for IDCS, which is again part of Oracle Cloud. And in IDCS, users are created from Active Directory using some integrations. So it's completely integrated with that. When a new person joins Carvana, gets assigned a specific role, that automatically creates that user in IDCS with required roles, and they're able to access this application. No other manual intervention required. We're doing a bunch of API calls, like I said, between VBCS, DBCS, Carvana system, DBCS SaaS system, which as of now, it's coming out to be roughly 4,500 API calls per minute in that 23 hours a week, 23 hours a day, 7 days a week window. So these are some of the key unique features about the solution. And in terms of timelines, we started 3 years ago, and it was 2 weeks of design and POC, and then roughly 2 months of building the solution. So within, I think by March of 2020, the solution was ready to go live, but because of COVID, the first deployment got pushed out. So within 10 months, the solution was designed, POC'd, and built for the first location. And since then, we have been deploying in various locations, as well as have been enhancing the solution, building brand new applications which were not required for the release 1, because that was kind of like a POC. So we have been building new applications, enhancing existing applications, working on performance tuning as and where required, and deploying in new locations, both new manufacturing locations as well as old manufacturing locations where this was not implemented when solution went live. So we are converting them from legacy to the new solution. So all that other enhancements are going on in parallel. I think that's all I had from my side.
Great. Thanks, Abhishek. There's a couple of questions on the chat. One question is regarding the mobile interfaces that you built. I guess the question is whether they were specifically built for mobile or were they just responsive UIs that were built as web applications?
So it was the second one. They were so they were not built for mobile. They were not like apps. Number one, we don't have different applications for the same functionality. One for mobile, one for desktop. It's the same exact application which is responsive. Looks differently. The button positioning, the search bar, the experience is different on mobile or tablet or desktop.
Right. Nice. And then the other question is, in terms of environments, do you have like multiple like dev, test, production environments?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have one tenancy, and in that tenancy, we have a dev, test, UAT, and production for environment, both on BBCS side as well as on DBCS side. We have single IDCS, but 4 BBCS, 4 DBCS in one tenancy. And then we have a DR tenancy, a separate tenancy for disaster recovery. There we have just UAT and prod, which are in sync with the previous tenancy UAT and previous tenancy prod.
Right. And then in terms of moving the applications between the instances, are you using CI/CD in Visual Builder Studio to do that?
So that's something which I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I didn't mention that, I'm not like, I'm not technically savvy on BBCS side. I have a team of people, some of them may be in here, but yeah, Visual Studio does sound like something that, we use.
Yeah.
We have been using Oracle Development Cloud also, and recently have been using this workspaces rather than applications for doing the development.
Yeah, so that's Visual Builder Studio. So yeah, so the answer to that is it's using Visual Builder Studio. All right. I guess the other question was about the Oracle database that you're using. That's Oracle database in the cloud, right? It's not on-prem or something like that.
It is on the cloud and it is not ATP. So right now it's a simple database on cloud. The size is very much close to 1 TB now, 1 terabyte. And we have been considering going to autonomous database, but as of now, we are still on just Oracle Cloud.
Right, great. Thanks, Abhishek, for sharing. That was great. It's indeed like a very interesting big system in one of the fastest growing companies in the world. And Abhishek's teams from Inspirage did a great job implementing this for the customer. All right, I think this is time for Mohan. If you can share your screen and start presenting.
Thanks, Shay. Thanks, everyone.
Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Hope
yes, we can hear you. Yeah. We can hear you and see the screen. Great.
Okay. Good. So, little intro about myself and my team. So, I'm Mohan. So, I'm from the technology team of Oracle Global Services Center, GSC. So, we are the global delivery center for Oracle, and we cover the entire Oracle Cloud Services portfolio, including the apps and technology. So our team has an expertise in web app development, mobile app development, SaaS extensions using PaaS, so integrations, content management, digital assistance, and cloud native. We pretty much do everything that covers the OCI stack and the PaaS stack. So that's about me and my team. And the use case that I'm going to talk about is recently implemented by our team for an India-based customer who belongs to the higher education industry. So for the confidentiality purposes, we are not going to reveal the customer name, but what we are going to do is talk about their unique use case that we have implemented. So this unique use case, we call it as the event management. So this use case is for providing a robust system for the customer's event management. So to elaborate what's an event management, as an educational institution, the customer hosts multiple conferences all through the year. So which conference we are classifying one as a type of event. So these conferences are open to the general public, where this general public can, register for these conferences by paying the registration fee. So for the customer, there might be multiple registrations open to multiple conferences at a given point of time, at any given point of time. And each of these conference might have unique information that should be shown to the end users while they are making the payment. And also there will be a need for collecting unique information about each of the conference during the registration. So now the problem that we are trying to solve for the customer at the customer's ask is that, so they want to generate dynamic registration pages based on a registration for a particular conference. And this dynamic pages also should be able to integrate with the payment gateway for any payments that are made by the customers. So also these pages are expected to show the unique details of the conference, collect data from the end users who are paying. So also post the successful payment, the system is responsible for the background activities like sending the invoices, receipts to these external users who have paid for this registration. And also all the successful transactions should be automatically accounted to the Oracle ERP cloud as journals. So as a part of the solution for this use case, what we did is we have implemented two portals using VBCS. So one of them, which we call as an internal portal, is for the customer himself, where they can configure the event-related metadata with all the necessary fields that should be shown to the end user. And what they get as an output of this is a unique link with the identifier to the conference. And these links would be shared with the customer, where they can use with the end users who can use these links to make any payment for the registration. So another thing that we have built is an external portal that is for the general public who is paying the registration fee. So they can view this portal and fill in all the details and make a payment, where they will be routed to the payment gateways for the payment collection. And in the next slides, what I will be doing is I will be showing the screenshots of both of these portals. I will be starting with the external user portal, and then I will show the internal portal screenshots where the conference related metadata is configured by the customer. So moving on to the next slide. So this is a portion of the end user view which they will be using to pay any fees. So as you can see here, there are some titles and some description about the conference itself. So we have configured a demo event to show it in this meeting. And what you can see is we show a registration last date. And what we see below are some of the fields. Yeah. So now every registration, there is a common set of fields that we need to capture, like the name, email ID, contact number, some GSTN number, address, and comments. But apart from that, for each conference, there is also a need for collecting unique data that is only concerned with the particular conference that the user is paying for. So that are the extra fields that I'm highlighting here, like the text field or the number field or the LOV field. So we'll be showing how we configure this, how these will be configured by the customers, and how these render dynamically the end user pages. So this is the first portion of the end user page. So I'll be moving to the next slide, where we'll show the next half. We can fit the entire page into one slide. So here is the second portion of the screen for the end user, where all of this is dynamically rendered. So here what we can see is there are categories of payments that they can do, and within the category there might be multiple payment lines. And what they can do is, so this first category, what we are seeing here, so it's showing a radio button where the user needs to select at least one line to make the payment. And there is a second category where we are showing the checkboxes where user can select multiple payment lines to make the payment. So below we show the total amount based on whatever the user has selected. And below that, there is an option for the payment modes. One of the payment mode is the DD or the wire transfer, nothing but the demand draft or the wire transfer. We can relate it to the account to account transfer. And there is the other option, which is the debit card, credit card, net banking, which will redirect them to the payment gateway for the payment collection. And below, what we can see is if in case of a DD or wire transfer, so the name of the bank that they are using, the unique transaction reference number and the date on which they have transferred. And below we show the details like, so to which bank account they have to transfer. So this is all coming up dynamically based on the conference that the user is registering to. And below this, what you see, the last section is a help text, the sample help text we have configured in case of our users have any queries with the payments to do, so they can contact us. So in the next set of slides, what I will be showing is the internal user pages where they configure the details, which will eventually render up like this page, what we are seeing for the end users. So moving on to the next slide. Okay. So this is a snapshot of the internal users portal where they have multiple tabs here to configure multiple details of the conference. So if I show this here, the first tab is called as the requisitions, where requisition is nothing but a conference or an event. So here they would configure the title of the event and any internal notes that they want to capture. So here there are some specific fields which deal with when should that payment link for this event be active. So when we say open date, from this date, the payment link will start capturing the payment for this particular conference, and on a close date, and we can mark a close date where post which the link will not be active and will not capture any payments for this conference. And the event type is conference. We can also configure how many number of registrations that we can accept for this. And also, as part of internal workflow, what happens is that a person from a particular department would raise the request for this conference creation, and there will be a series of approvals before this payment link goes live for the external users to pay. So these are the comments that we are capturing for the requester to show to the approvers to approve this transaction. And there is also an event link. So what happens is they on their website, they can post the details of a particular conference saying, so we are hosting this conference from this date to this date. And these are all the details where pretty much all the details regarding the conference need to be shown. So they can provide a link to that particular pages here, so which will be rendering on the end user page. So now to relate back what this page transforms into to the external users page, I'll just go back to the external user page quickly. So here what we can see is the title of the requisition that has been configured, and the event details takes them, go to this event details, this link takes them to the event details page, what they have configured in the event link in this particular section. So the next section is called as purpose outline. So moving on to the next slide. So in this is where we will provide a rich text editor for them where they can configure some basic details of the conference, like any description of the conference from when to when, some kind of basic details for the conference, where they can use this rich text editor to format their content and add it here. And they can add multiple purpose outlines based on their need, where using a particular display order, we will be iterating this and showing this in the front end. And also they can configure a help text, what to be shown to the end users. Now, if I go back to the end user view again, so what we can see is the purpose outline, which has been configured using the rich text editor, will be dynamically shown in this section. And the help text that they have configured will be shown to the end of the page. Yeah. And in the next section, what they can configure, the next section is the pay towards, where they can configure what are all the categories of the payment lines and what are all the actual payment lines. So what I'm showing as an example here is the configuration that has been done for this payment lines, So you can see that they are grouped into a category, and there will be a display order for that category, whether it is a single selection or a multiple selection. Based on his, if it is a single selection, we show a radio button in the front end. If it is a multiple selection, we show the checkbox in the front end. They can mark whether it is required or mandatory that a particular payment line should be selected from this section. And for the pay towards, this is the actual payment line description, and they can say in which order it should be shown, what is the amount that they should pay. And like this, they can configure the categories and the payment lines. Now, below that, there is an option for the payment options itself. What's the kind of payment options, whether it's a wire transfer, which is nothing but the account to account transfer, or the payment gateway. Now, below that, what we can also do is we can configure the help text. When the user selects the wire transfer, what is the help text? Like in this case, the help text is nothing but what are the account details that they should be transferring to. If in case of payment gateway, just a simple text saying you will be redirected to the payment gateway for transaction, but they can pretty much configure any message. Now, with this view, if I go back to the end user view, what we will do is we'll take all this configured metadata and dynamically render this in the end user page. So you can see that the categories and the payment lines have been transformed into here, and the second category transformed into here. So this is the help text that they have configured for the wire transfer. So because the wire transfer is selected, so it shows up this. If it is debit card, credit card, then we will show the other help text. And this is also based on the configuration, whether it is a single select or multi-select, we show the radio buttons or the checkboxes. All the content is rendered dynamically based on what the internal users configure for this payment, for this conference. So moving on to the next page, this is the important one where let's say there is a conference and they need some extra details to be captured by the end user who is registering for that conference. So we have provided them here the opportunity to configure as many fields as they need. So what they can do is they can configure if they need to capture a input text, they can click on this button text, and we will show the information. What is all the details, the metadata of the text. Like for an example, if I show here, so this is the configuration for the drop down, which is nothing but an LOV. So here they can go ahead and configure what should be the label of the LOV. What's the help text to be shown for this LOV? What is the display order of it, whether it is mandatory or not, and what are the options of the LOV. So this is the sample for a drop down or an LOV. But if I show what has been added for a text field, so for the text field, they have added the label as the text field and some help text here. What is the display order, and whether it is mandatory or not, what is the maximum number of characters that can be entered. And for a number field, they have entered another number field where the label is called as number field, and help text is some please enter your age. And we are want a validation where minimum should be 20 and maximum should be 50. So now they can add as many number of text, number, or drop down checkbox sets or data using this screen. So what it will transform to is, if I go back to the external user screen again, yeah. So here we can see the fields that are added, the text field, the number field, and the LOV that are dynamically rendered based on what the internal users have configured during the conference registration configuration in the internal portal. So based on whether they have marked it mandatory or not, we automatically mark this one as the mandatory. That would show up as required while they are filling the information. So going back to the internal configuration. So this is about the additional fields where we pretty much use the Fusion Flex fields kind of concept to save the data back into the database. And the next section is the acknowledgement text where they can configure what is the messages to be shown to the end user if in case of a payment gateway transaction success, or if a transaction has failed, or if the wire transaction is success, what is the message that should be shown in the web page after the successful payment, or if in case they want to send an email, they can click on this email enable and send configure a subject and the body, where in the background, as soon as whether there is a payment gateway error or whether it is a wire transfer success or the payment gateway success, based on that we can send the emails accordingly. So what we haven't shown here is in the slides is two more sections, which is the general ledger setup and the tax settings. So general ledger setups use the ERP chart of account combinations, where the finance user configures what is the chart of accounts that the amounts that the payment should hit when yeah. So what the account should be hit on the ERP when for the successful payments, and if there are any tax or the GST settings, what should be used. So all those configurations they would do in the internal portal here. So once this is saved and submitted for approval, once all the approvals are met, so they will get a link. So there is a preview option available for them. So at each stage of this configuration, go back, at each stage of configuring this metadata for a conference, they have an option to preview, where they can click on a preview and it shows up the external page based on this configuration, where they can verify and delete some information or add more information as required. And once they submit, what they will get is a payment link, which can be circulated to the end users for registering to the conference. Yep. So this is pretty much about the use case and the solution components that are used here. The visual builder, we have used it for the user interfaces. The external portal, internal portal, everything is built on top of the visual builder, and it is responsive as well. And we have an Oracle database for storing all this data. So this is a Oracle VMDB, high performance VMDB. And we use the Oracle integration cloud integrations for exposing the REST APIs out of the Oracle database, and even for the integrations to ERP to get any chart of account combinations or tax setups, or even sending back the general ledgers for the successful payments. So we use the integrations. And we also have the Oracle ERP, which is which is tracking all the financial transactions here. And we have used an Oracle Compute, where we have developed a Java app and deployed it onto the Apache Tomcat on a Oracle Compute, OCI Compute, where this is acting as a middleware for us for the payment gateway integrations, where we needed a server level component that will act as a middleware between the VPCs and the payment gateways. And also we have used the OCI mail delivery service, which will be sending the invoices and receipts to the end users as emails and receipts and invoices as attachments on emails to the end users. And we have used the Visual Builder Studio for the VBCS development and storing all the code artifacts, and as well for the CI/CD. So this is the solution architecture. So the development team is using the Visual Builder Studio to build all the visual apps, the Visual Builder apps. And there is a separate set of team who is working on the integrations, who would work on the OIC directly. And the end users will be accessing using the desktop or a mobile, the Visual Builder apps. And in the background, the Oracle integration is the one which is supplying the data as REST APIs to the Visual Builder apps and integrations to ERP. There is, as said, there is a Java compute layer, Java layer on the Oracle Compute, which is acting as a middleware to the payment gateway. So this is the solution architecture. Now, what are the unique features here? So what we do is we dynamically generate all the UI. So what it is, so in the future, the customer might think of hosting n number of conferences with different types of details, but they need not to worry of developing every page on the fly for each conference. They just need to go into that internal portal and configure all the metadata, where it would be saved into the DB. The end user page will be reading this metadata and generating the UI on the fly. And we also provide them the option with the flex fields kind of thing, where they can capture conference specific data. So we have also used some external UI components like the rich text editor that we have shown in the internal user portal, where they can format the text as if formatting in a Word document. And we have used the database is a private cloud. So we are using the OIC client agent for interaction with the database cloud. And for the payment gateway integration, we have used the Java layer, where it takes care of all the encryptions of the entire requests and the responses. And as well, it is responsible for the checksum calculations when sending the request to the payment gateway, and also verifying the response checksums when receiving the responses from the payment gateways. And we have a public internet-facing end-user view, which is at a peak time should be able to take almost 3,000 requests in a day from the end users. And also what we do is seamless accounting of all these transactions to the ERP as journals. Every end of the day, we send all the transactions that has been successful for that day as journals to ERP. And we are also using this OCI email delivery service for delivering all the notifications and attachments as receipts and invoice to the end customers. So these are some of the key unique features of this use case. And the project execution, so developed by Oracle Consulting. So it took 3 months from conception to delivery. We had a total of 5 developers, where 3 developers worked on UI, 2 developers worked on backend. So all the code artifacts. So one of the other thing which I have not told in the solution components is we have the Oracle Process Cloud service as well, which is used for all the approval workflows. So now any code artifact, whether it can be a VBCS artifact or integration or a PL SQL piece of code or a Java code, everything is stored on the VB Studio Git repositories. And we are using the pipeline, CI/CD pipelines for deploying the Visual Builder apps across environments. So that's pretty much about the use case that I want to showcase today.
Thanks, Mon. There's a couple of questions for you on the chat. One question is whether this system is PCI compliant and whether the data, the personal data, is encrypted. I think you kind of answered that.
Yes, the data is encrypted at rest on the Oracle database by default, and we are also performing the encryptions wherever required. But when it comes to the internal users, they should see all the unencrypted data because they need it as the reports to capture, to contact the end users and all.
Right. And then the other question is, do you know which specific rich text editor you packaged as a reusable component?
Okay, I forgot the name. It's Lucid or something. I forgot the name.
All right, so we can find it out later.
Yeah.
And then I guess if when people register to the conference, you're not actually creating users in IDCS, you just put them in the database, right?
Exactly. So
yeah,
this is internal set. These users are not registered users. Anyone with this link, access to this link, can go to that link, fill up their details and make payments. So only the internal users. So here also we have an integration with AD for the internal users, for the organizational users who will log in with the SSO AD. But all the external users, they are not registered users.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks, Mon. If you'll stop share, I'll share again. And again, everyone, if you have any further question, you can post them right now on the Q&A and we can answer them. If not, we'll just summarize today's seminar. So again, I wanted to thank Abhishek and Mohan for sharing their experience. I think it brings a lot to the community when people share what they did. It shows people what is possible, gives them maybe some ideas of things they didn't think about. And by the way, if any of you who are listening have built an application and would like to share your story in a future webcast, drop me an email or a tweet, a direct tweet, or just on the LinkedIn, you can reach me over there. If you want to learn more about Visual Builder, just like we say, every month we have this monthly webcast. So every month we'll have a seminar for you about something new. There's always the documentation site. There's the forums. By the way, the forums are now open, so you can read them even if you're not registered to them. So that's a nice improvement right now. Should make them also much more searchable through Google. We have our blog at blogs.oracle.com/VBCS. And if you're not part of it, we are going bigger and bigger on the LinkedIn group. So if you're on LinkedIn and you have a user there, just search in the groups for the Oracle Visual Builder group and join us. Every new item, every new blog or new version or new event that is coming out, we're putting out there. So again, thanks for our presenters today. Thanks for everyone for attending. I hope this has been useful, and we'll see you next month. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.